back to Rugged Mountain Homestead. My name is Sarah, and today we are in the kitchen. What we're going to be doing today is making a pan of homemade brownies. I got the recipe from a cookbook that I ordered from another homestead, and I absolutely love this recipe for brownies. It is the best one I've ever come across. It is, to me, a no-fail. They don't need icing because of how rich and moist they are. So, as we were also mentioning convenience foods and convenience items, I thought I would go ahead and get two things accomplished at the same time. And I want to show you how I do that. What we're going to do is we're going to be making the brownie mix as a dry mix, putting it into this 1 quart jar. You can use any jar that you have. I just happen to have an abundance of mason jars, so I'm using a 1 quart jar, and I'm just using an extra lid that I had on hand. You can also, if you're using a mason jar, I know that they have those plastic lids. I don't have any, but they have those that you can use as well. So just use whatever you have on hand. Now, to start off with the recipe first. Out before me, I have flour, sugar, unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 cup of butter, 4 eggs, and vanilla extract. Okay, so what we're going to do first is the recipe calls for 1 cup of melted butter. Now, I don't have a microwave, and so I'm going to do it in the easiest way that I do things. We have to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. So while I do that, I will just take this cast iron pan, put in my 1 cup of butter, stick it in the oven, and let it melt while the oven preheats. And this is the butter that I get from Azure Standard. It's the Mother's Choice. I love it also not just because it's whole butter. It also comes in these half-cup sticks. Sometimes it makes it easier when baking. So stick half a cup there, and this will make a full cup. Now notice that I did not throw away the butter wrapper in the trash. I'm going to show you what I do with those. Okay. Put those aside until that step comes. Okay. So we're going to mix our ingredients while the butter is melting. So we're going to take a half cup of baking cocoa. And we're going to measure this into our mixing bowl. I do a rough measure with the cocoa. Never really hurts. And since it's calling for a half a cup of baking cocoa, while I'm doing it at the same time, I'm going to bring it over to my jar, put my funnel in, and I'm going to put this into my jar. There. Right? Now we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I use all-purpose unbleached flour. I like having flour that doesn't go through the chemical process. And that was 2 cups. My setup is a little bit different in here today because of the lighting that's coming in through the windows. And this was the best I could do. But I'm not going to complain because I am so happy to see the sunshine. 1 cup. There's 2 cups. Now I have to alter my recipe just a little bit because I'm at high altitude. We're at 6,600 feet here, 6,630. So I'll just make that adjustment without noting it in the video. Okay, and the 2 cups of flour for our dry mix. And 2. Okay. The next is 2 cups of sugar. For this, I use organic cane sugar. Actually, I use organic cane sugar for everything. I get that in 25-pound bags from Azure Standard, and I keep it in a 5-gallon food grade bucket with a gamma seal lid, as I do for my flour as well. Cane sugar is before the chemical process. It is sweeter, and I feel better using it. So it's 2 cups of sugar as well. And like I said, I'm making adjustments for my high altitude baking, but I will just call out for the regular at sea level, which the recipe was written for. And 2 cups of sugar for our jar. Now, as you can see, the jar is getting rather full. It's okay, because we're going to be taking out the air pockets here in a minute. Here's 1. Yep. Let's go ahead. I just use any type of stick. This is a Tupperware grapefruit section thing. I'm just using that to kind of push down in here and get out some of the air pockets so we can fit in that next cup of sugar. I am making a mess, but that's okay. I'm known to do that from time to time. Two cups of sugar. And again, we're going to need to get the air out. Okay, now once you've gotten the air pockets out so that everything can fit into your jar, it's going to be quite full. I mean, it's going to come up to the top. Not heaping over, but it's going to come up to the top. And at this point, all I'm going to do is screw on the lid. And not super beautiful, but it's nice. The sugar is a little bit darker, the cane sugar than white granulated sugar. And then we have our flour and the the cocoa powder. So I'm just going to set that there. Now, back to our mixing bowl. So in here we have our unsweetened baking cocoa, our flour, our sugar, and now we're going to add the 4 eggs. In addition to our 4 eggs, we are now going to add 4 teaspoons of vanilla. When I first tried this recipe, I thought, oh my gosh, 4 teaspoons. I have never used 4 teaspoons of vanilla in a baking recipe before. But you know what? It is delicious. And I have a brand new bottle here, so I'm trying to be careful. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course I did spill some down the front of the label. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll come out easier next time. I do use pure vanilla. It is expensive, but I get it at Azure Standard. I order it in the 4-ounce glass bottle. It is considerably cheaper than in the store. I mean, stores I think are like $15 last I checked, and I think they're under $10 at Azure, so I always go there for that. All right, so now I'm going to take this over to the... Okay, so we have all of our ingredients in. Let's check on our butter and see if it's ready. And it is. Very nice. We're going to take our 1 cup of melted butter and pour it into the mixing bowl. Very nice. And let's take the mixing bowl over to the stand mixer and get it combined. Okay. Now, for the frugal living tip. I, like most everyone else, used to just throw these in the trash. It's a butter wrapper. What's the big deal? Butter wrapper is wax paper, and it always leaves some of the butter on there. So what I started doing is I took this butter wrapper, and instead of spraying my pan with the non-stick cooking spray, I thought I will grease my pan with this butter wrapper. And if it has some excess butter on it, I make sure that I get it off. And I just rub it in there, just like this. I was skeptical about it at first because I thought, oh, that's not going to get enough in there. And so I used it when I was baking something that called for a greased and floured pan. That's your ultimate test, because when you flour something a little bit, it'll stick to it, and turns out it was perfect. So I do that. That way it saves me from having to buy spray that I don't want to use anyway. It saves me from having to dig out the coconut oil out of the jar and grease it up, and I can use the coconut oil for something else. Now, I'll take it and throw it in the trash. Now remember, I opened up 2, so this extra one here, I will just fold in half like this. I keep a Ziploc bag, a Ziploc sandwich bag in my refrigerator, in where I keep my butter, and I just put them in there like this. Now next time when I go to make something else and I need to grease my pan, I will just go to the refrigerator, pull out one of these, grease the pan, and then throw it away. Now we have our greased pan. I'm going to take a spatula and put my mix, my batter, my brownie batter, into the greased pan. It's still a little thick, but it'll be fine. Okay, now that I have the batter into the pan, I'm just going to spread it out as evenly as I can. It's not a huge deal, but you want it to cook evenly, or bake evenly, excuse me. Okay, now once you have your batter spread out evenly in your pan, you're just going to pop it in your 350-degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. Your kitchen is going to smell wonderful, I promise. Okay, and now you have a dry mix, a dry brownie mix for the next time you want to make brownies. And what I did is I just took a recipe card and I just listed the 3 wet ingredients that you would need. 1 cup of melted butter, 4 eggs, and 4 teaspoons of vanilla. So then what you do is then you just dump the contents of this jar into your mixing bowl with your 4 eggs, your cup of melted butter, and your 4 teaspoons of vanilla. Mix it up, put it in the pan. Just as simple as using a box mix, cheaper. I already had the ingredients on hand. I didn't have to go out and buy more, and it is no harder than adding, I think a box mix you have to add eggs and oil. But anyway, so I find that easier. I find it more economical, and I like it. So I encourage you to try this. So what I did is I just put the directions on there to empty the contents of the jar into your mixing bowl, add your wet ingredients, and mix until thoroughly combined. You know, grease your 13 by 9 inch pan, pour your batter in, put it in your 350 oven for 25 to 30 minutes, and you'll have brownies. So now this will go on my shelf. If I'm going to give it to someone, I'll put it on a recipe card. On the bag, I also put the ingredients that are in the jar and how much. But you know, I'm a firm believer of using what you have on hand. I happen to have some recipe cards on hand. You could put a label on here. They have canning labels, or if you just have one of those wide labels, you know, just stick it on here. Some people that can write tiny, you know, you could even write brownie mix on top, and just list the wet ingredients if you're not giving it away or anything. Just putting it on your shelf for later. So in the same amount of time that we made a pan of brownies to bake, we've also made it for next time. And remember to always use what you have on hand and to make the most of everything that you do have. Thank you for joining me in the kitchen today on Rugged Mountain Homestead. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, take care.